Hey, welcome back to the Confidad Podcast. My name is Dan Tinquist, your host here. Thank you so much for joining us yet again today. And just like we begin every day, begin with our fatherhood mindset. Say it with me. I'm the only one who can fulfill the father role I have, so I choose to do it well. I get to show up well for my kids. Imperfection is reality. Ownership is a choice. Today is brand new, so is tomorrow. I am wholly loved, so I will love wholly. As we hone in on our equipping section today, I want to talk about we've talked about where we are, right? And kind of establishing this point A and wanting to move into point B, that vision for when you're 75. We'll get there towards the end of this episode. But before we get there, there's a few things that we have to understand. As we do this, more stuff is going to come up that gets uncovered, more things that we need to work on as dads, more challenging things, emotional things that we've spent our whole lives avoiding and potentially covering up. And so think of it like an old house with wallpaper, like we've wallpapered over all the stuff so we don't have to look at the old stuff. And so it's going to have to come off in order to address some of those issues. If you've never done therapy before, similar to what they do there, I really highly recommend therapy for either you or your kids. If you're hitting places that are high resistance and you need someone way more skilled than I am in that reprocessing of trauma and other things. However, not everything requires a therapist. Not everything requires someone to walk you through in a clinical process. But everything that we've gone through, all the wallpaper that we've covered up, it's important to start peeling off those layers, digging deeper and understanding that this is life. If you want to grow, if you want to be a lifelong learner, if you want to be able to say, I haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm going to keep pushing, which is how I'm wired and how I think a lot of you high achieving guys out there are wired. It requires the humility to say things like, I know I don't have it all together. You don't have to say it out loud in front of a big group of people, but where's the place that you get to say, I know I don't have it all together, but how do I safely discover that which is a blind spot in my life? They're called blind spots for a reason because we don't know about them. Like we can't find our own blind spots necessarily on our own. You can, it's a lot harder. It takes a lot longer than doing it in community or with a coach, but understanding that you have blind spots and they're probably going to cause unintentional harm to your kids if you don't address them, right? That's why I constantly say, are you willing to pay the price now of digging deep and growing as a dad so that your kids don't have to pay the price later? Because my wife, as a mental health therapist, she works with people in their 50s and 60s, still processing trauma from their childhood. And guess what? Most of them, that trauma was inflicted on them by their parents or family members. And many times, not all the time, and maybe not a majority of the time, but many times their parents did the best with what they had, and yet they still unintentionally harmed their kids. Is that you? Maybe that happened to you as a kid. Maybe you're doing it to your own kid and you don't even know. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be unintentionally harming my kids because I was too lazy to dive deep into my own stuff and uncover the stuff that I'm not aware of that is causing unintentional harm to my kids or my relationships. Okay. So that's what we're doing. As we dig deep, as we go forward in this process, it's going to require the ability to choose to keep pushing forward and dig deeper. Just like when you're on that hike to the summit and you're hitting a steep section where you're like, man, I really got to dig deep right now. That's what I'm referring to. Is sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, sometimes you're in the hot sun, sometimes you're in the chilly, cold shadow side of the mountain. All of those things are real. All of those things kind of help you as you move along in this growth journey. Accept the past and move forward. You literally can't change anything that happened 2 minutes ago, let alone 20 years ago. Okay, maybe you yelled at your kid, or you spanked him, or you did something you're not proud of. You can't change it. So you need to accept it and move forward, right? Accept the reality that the life that you're living now is the culmination of your choices, thoughts, attitudes, and actions up to this point. And you need to accept that, not avoid it, not pretend like it didn't happen, not self-medicate to pretend that it didn't happen. Accept it. Sometimes therapy helps in this, especially if you're processing your own trauma, but moving forward requires understanding. I don't control, like yesterday we talked about control is an illusion. One thing I didn't mention, you don't control what's already happened to you or the things you've already done. It's already in the past. You can't control it. So moving forward, accepting that and going, okay, from today forward, I'm going to choose to say, yes, I make mistakes. Yes, I'm not proud of the mistakes that I've made, but I'm going to choose to grow, to find my blind spots and continue to find those core issues, those core things that have happened in my life that are causing the unintentional harm or the blind spots, and uprooting them, examining them, and understanding how do I keep going forward while growing in fatherhood. Okay, so accepting the past, moving forward. Okay, I want you to think about for a second the hardest thing you've ever done. Maybe you trained for a marathon or Ironman or something like that. The hardest thing that you've ever done. Have it? Okay. As you think about that and all the discipline, all of the sacrifice, all of the things that have gone into achieving that goal, opening a business, taking over your dad's business, whatever it was, think about the hardest thing you've ever endured. So with that in your mind, the hardest thing you've ever done, I want you to understand that if you were able to get through that and you're still alive and you're listening to this right now, you are able to become the dad your kids need. You have it in you. You maybe don't have it today. You maybe don't have it tomorrow. You haven't reached that potential, but you have that potential within you to dig deep and discipline and sacrifice and move into that space of occupying the person that you already wish you were. It's said that we don't multiply who we wish we were, we multiply who we are, right? So I'm all about aspirational mindsets and setting up things and thinking about who do we want to become, becoming that dad our kids need. The reality is who you are right now is who your kids are seeing and who you're modeling. If you're not proud of some of that stuff, okay, let's work on it. Let's move forward. Let's see that growth happen. And the most powerful part of all of this is as we are raising interdependent kids, understanding their strengths, understanding their weaknesses, understanding the need for community around them to grow up into that position as an interdependent, confident adult. If they see you working through your stuff, apologizing when you get it wrong, choosing to make healthier habits and grow as a dad, they'll go, oh, you know what? My dad's not the same guy he was 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago. And hopefully that's a good thing, right? As you set out on this path and you look 6 weeks ahead or 6 months ahead, the goal is to allow your kids to see this transformation so you're modeling growth. If you are just stagnant and static in who you are, never growing past your blind spots, never striving to understand things in a deeper way or in a different way, you will set your kids up to believe that someday they grow and they arrive at adulthood and then they never change. Nothing ever changes. It's just fine. I made it and I'm here and I'm going to operate in this mode until I die. And that's just not how anyone I've ever met in my entire life or ever heard of in my entire life has operated, has done things. We all continue to make mistakes. We all continue to grow. We all continue to set goals and make them and meet them. So as you think about the hardest thing you've ever done, realize that like this is just simple 1% growth, marginal improvement, day by day, getting better and allowing your kids to see it. I used to work out when my kids were sleeping or when they were gone at school, and I'm starting to do it when they're home. And guess what they're doing? Watching me. Strange. Also, they're like, oh, this is how dad has started to transform his body because he's actually dedicating time, energy, and all of that into his body. And I want to model not just physical fitness for my kids, but all kinds of different areas of growth and let them in to see that growth. Because if we want them to grow, we need to model it. Okay. So we'll end here, and the empowering section will be this assignment. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a song called Way Back When by Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors. Yes, same artist from the last song, but When you go ahead and sit down to listen to this song, I want you to get out a journal, the same one that you used last time, open it up to a blank page, and the only assignment is to write. Just keep writing. As you listen to this song, think about when you're 75. What does the relationship with your kids look like? Where are you? What are you doing? You're 75 years old. You're surrounded by your family. Who else is there? Are your kids there? Are they not there? Are your kids' spouses there or partners? What's your relationship with them look like? How's the relationship with your spouse or your partner? Understanding that part of where you're headed is a powerful picture to allow yourself to begin making steps towards that trajectory. And so after you've done that, you can go ahead and just kind of reflect on, what does this look like? I've listened to this song. The years are like blowing past like crazy. They're going to launch. Kids are going to launch way sooner than I want them to. So what am I going to do today? How am I going to invest my time today to show up well for my kids so that that trajectory of your life, maybe that goal is like way up here, that vision of when you're 75, it's like seems unattainable and unachievable. That's okay. I'm all about aspiration and setting high goals and wanting to reach for something that seems unreachable now, because your trajectory now might not reach it. But what's one thing you can do today to move it? Just 0.5%, a fraction of a percent. And as you go through the days and months and years of your kids in your home, and then as they launch and grow and meet people and maybe establish their own families, or maybe stay single and build a beautiful life as a single person, what are the things that are going to allow you to move your trajectory from here up to here, from maybe like 15-degree angle up to a 45-degree angle? And when you extrapolate that out to when you're 75, you have every chance that you can to reach that. There's no guarantees in this life. There's no guarantees that you will wake up tomorrow. I know that. But if we don't spend time thinking about what it looks like when we're 75, we won't necessarily change anything today to change what happens there. Good friend of mine today was sharing on his business, and he said, you can change your attitude all you want, but if your habits and actions don't change, nothing changes. Couldn't agree with him more. So we'll drill down to that in a future episode, understanding what are the things I can do today to become the dad that my kids need. Go listen to the song, do your journaling, and I promise you that will empower you more than anything I can say here. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you again tomorrow.